All right, so I've got my pattern, and this is going to be different. I'm really excited to do this. The way that I've always done lace before is I've never been able to get a really straight line around the middle of the lace pattern. So this year with the coming of the craft lathe, or my accepting of the craft lathe, because I was kind of being stubborn about it, we can have lace, or I can have lace and introduce it to you guys, that goes in a straight line and has some straight elements around the middle of it and stuff. So I'm really excited to bring this in. And so what I've got to do is decide where I want this. You know, this is just the design part, so let me just cut a little hole in here. You wouldn't do necessarily this piece unless you were designing. You would never try to trace lace on a bulb. It's a nightmare of epic proportions. Okay, so I've got that little thing sticking in there. Alright, so that's exactly that size of my center. I'll try and just rip it and ease it out. Okay. I want to see about where that hits when I'm looking at that. Okay, so that's right at the top part of, like, if you can see at the top edge of the bowl, that leaves these pretty stroke areas right at the middle area, which is a perfect way, a perfect place for them to hit. And then I was thinking, and I'll see how I feel about this as we get through it, I was thinking that I would kind of repeat the pattern going down towards the bottom and make the whole entire thing be lace filled. So we'll see how I feel about that after I get through the first part, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, you can do a couple of things. You can estimate, or you can either estimate it or you can measure it. If you're going to measure, then you would measure from your the line where you say that your pattern is going to come out from, and you would measure it to that line, just under 1.5 inches. Okay, and if I could measure, if I wasn't in that part of my brain, I'd probably tell you what I could do. What you can do is you can just bend this ruler. So you could actually mark in a couple of spots all the way around, and it could be give or take. So the neat thing is you don't really have to. You don't want to give or take it when you're on your ornament. So I can say, there's 1 inch, a little under 1.5. I'm just going to make my mark right there. Slap this puppy into the craft lathe. You want to cut this string off. You don't want that string on there. It just gets in the way, and you can take the little angel thing off if you didn't want that. Okay, this one, whoops, the chin here. This one moves in and out. Okay, so you want that one all the way pushed back, because then this one is on a spring. Okay, so what we're going to do, we just loosen this little nut right here. And I'm just going to see how close I need that so that it's tight, and then I will tighten it. You want it fairly tight because you want to be able to turn the ornament, and then you also want it fairly centered. Okay, so that being said, get me on there kind of centered. See how I feel about that. And kind of see how it's spinning to see if it's kind of plumb level. Alright, so I have my mark on here. Now I've got my Ghostwriter pen, or pencil, I guess. It's a replacement for a soapstone. Soapstone you have to sharpen, and it's very hard to keep it sharp. This one stays in its lead protector. You just, to get it to go back inside, you just push on it. If you have arthritis, and hang on, come on out. Okay, oh, I see you click. Just trying to pull it. If you have arthritis and you don't like the problem that people have a problem with, the grip type thing, they make one that has a white lead, and you can click it, and now it has a gray lead, and then you click it again, and now it has a ballpoint pen without any ink. And so that's like a roller head that will trace your pattern, and it's got a rubberized grip, and it's a little bit bigger. So it's a really nice one, and it's 3-in-1, and so of course you're going to save money. That's always great. Anyway, so what we're going to do to get our even line on our ornament is click out some lead, okay? And I'm going to lock my hand wherever that is, and then I'm going to use this hand to turn it slowly. That's why it's important that it's in there kind of straight. The neat thing about ornaments is when you get to the point where you are looking at ornaments from a visual display, you can't see the back and the front at the same time. So if you go a little uphill or downhill, it doesn't matter. All right, so now I'm going to lock my hand. Just going to put that right on that dot and gently, not with pressure, my hand isn't moving. And not bad. You see, it's just like a little teeny hair off. All right, now I'm going to estimate that that's a little over a ½ inch. I'm going to get a good lock on this. Find a good comfort place. I'm going to go right there. And we will just spin that along. Now you might be asking yourself, what do you do if you make an error? Okay, that is where we pull out. This is where tools are fantastic because you've really got to have a good tool. This is a triangular tipped eraser, a tri-tip eraser, and each of these little things comes with a little point. And so what that does for you is if you need to get in there real sharp like and erase just a little point, that's a mistake. It doesn't smudge on the surface of the ornament, so that's like a fantastic thing. Okay, so we have our lines. Now what you could do if you wanted to estimate like the whole entire thing, like where this has been like the missing piece for lace. So that line was down to here. You could go up that ½ inch and you could make another mark so that all of these lines, you're still going to estimate the placement of them this way, but maybe if you have a lightly sketched line, maybe you'll feel a little bit more confident about where you go. Now I could measure it once again. Okay, so that's about a ½ inch. And then we'll get my hand locked in there. It's important to find a really good comfort place so that you don't move. No wiggling. Okay, I can still see the line. I didn't wiggle, but I don't think my ornament's quite in there straight. So this is what's cool about this. Look at how wonderfully straight those lines are. Like, could you ever do that with any other tool? It's just fantastic. All right, so we'll go back in this way. When you order your craft lathe, please do make sure that you order extra little pads. The neat thing about this is it comes with pads, and the bad thing about that is there's a hole, so that means that things can sit inside of it. But what happens, because they're just flexible enough to kind of cup to it, which makes it real tight, they stick to it, so when you take something out, you don't realize you've flung the disc across the room. So do order extras because you will lose them. I've lost mine about 5 times. So watch for that. All right, I'm going to put it right back in there, where I think it's about straight. Now the hard part would be getting a line right down the middle. And the way that you can get by with that is either A, use your arm up here, okay, and that seems like that's going to work, or you could feasibly turn it. Okay, I want that little chick gone. Hang on. Okay, I folded her up and I stuffed her into the craft lathe thing right there. So now she's gone. Like, it's cute and all, but it was making my ornament uneven. Okay, now I could go down and I could make my other line, which is going to be dropped down from there. And so I'm going to go ahead, let's see, how am I going to do this? I think I'm going to go ahead and cackhand my hand. As long as I'm locking everything and just turning one, it should work out. And if I'm doing heavy pressure, I started getting heavier there and I felt my hand moving with the ornament. You don't want that. You want your hand to be locked. All right, so now I've got marks, which is fantastic. Okay, you don't want to smudge them off. And now what I can do is, instead of, I'm going to adjust my lathe. The only thing I don't like about the lathe is the placement of this button. it's just a little bit awkward to get your fingers in there. All right, so I want to make sure that that'll be tight enough. Tighten that down. Don't over tighten, but don't make it so that you can lose it either. Now the thing that we haven't had before, and also don't make it so tight that you have a problem with bursting your ornament. All right, what we haven't had before is this extra pair of hands when we're painting lace. And I think that's one of the things that this really gives us, is that ability to have extra hands. So what we're going to do, dun dun dun, is we're going to, now we have to mark this, okay? And we have, I'm going to count, and this is how we freehand this stuff. So what we do is we count how many of these marks that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, where'd we go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And then out here we're going to have 12. So start with the first one. And the way that we always do that is we look straight on at this so that we can see spacing wise whether or not we're kind of evenly spaced. So you could also do a cheater thing, and you can use these little heads if you have the right amount. And I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 8. So I can't really use that. So I'm going to look straight down, and I know I'm going to have one mark right there. So I'm just going to put my dot right there, and then I'm going to look straight down at it. If I was looking, let's see, if you're straight down at it, then I'm going to come straight across on the other side, and I'm going to make my mark. Now, because I can't see this because I'm facing it towards you, I have to bring it back and make my mark. Okay, so I'm going straight over to the other side, okay, and I'm just making a little dot. Now, because it's 6, I can easily go, and I'm going to go north, south, east, checking for evenness. You wouldn't believe how nice and wonderful this is, okay, to be having that extra pair of hands and being able to know that this is held like this. Okay, so now I have my 4 lines. Now, and you know what I've just done? I've divided it into 4s instead of into 6s. Okay, so use the corner of my eraser. Okay, and then what we have to do is we have to divide it into 2 over on this side. And that's a little bit trickier to do evenly. But like I said, you can't see the opposite side, so you'll never know. All right, from there you're going to do the same thing you did for north and south. You're just going to go directly across, and then directly across, and then eyeball it and see if you think it's straight. Okay, and I think I'm about there. Okay, so those are our dots, and then we need dots in between those dots, and that brings us down to our first row. Okay, so this is easy because you're just going to go equal distance, drop down, make a dot. Equal distance, drop down, make a dot. Okay, you can also make your dot that's straight down from your the dots that you've already put on there, because that's a needed dot. Okay, so finish those. All right, so far all you've done is make 2 rows of dots that correspond. And in the How to Paint Lace book, it talks about you've got structure dots and you've got structure lines and things like that. The lines that I have here are the structure lines, okay? And those, what's nice about that is you just simply have to dot where they intersect, and then you're going to sketch that middle line. You'll go from dot to dot just with a line, a single line. So this is very easy to do. You have to pull it apart. Don't look at the decorated part when you're doing this, because you don't want to do all the decoration right up front. If I did all of this and then found out I was wonky with this side, I'd have to erase everything and I'd wreck an ornament, right? So by doing the dots and getting that first row, then I can sketch on that first row of stuff and see if I'm liking the scale and the scope and stuff like that. Then move on to my next row, then my next row. Okay, so by just putting on structure first, and then we paint the structure, and then we start decorating. And I can't tell you how many times I have loved what I've drawn, and then once I've gotten it onto my ornament, I've hated how busy it got. So like I've eliminated some of the steps in my own design. So always decorate last, okay? So to show you how to put those lines on now, I'm going to use my map, okay? And let's see if I can figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so from dot to dot, I'm just going to arch and arch. Okay. And I'm going to skip. Am I skipping that one? Yeah. Then I go, I can keep you on camera. I'm going to go from there to there. So I'll just make this like almost like flower petal motif. And then the next ones are arched that way. Now, I'm not worried about wiggly lines, like I just made that wiggly, and I'm doing it off to the back side of myself, so it's going to be bad. But when I paint this, I'll paint it straight, and then when the paint dries, I can erase the extra lines. So don't be worried about having extra wiggly lines and stuff like that, because you won't have to worry. I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of this sketch, and then I'll come back when that's done. Alright, the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check it for evenness. Okay, so you just eyeball it, and if you see anything out of whack, besides, like, you know, this line right here is just real bad. It's not a very straightly drawn line. Like I said, rather than erase and redraw and all that, I'm just going to leave it and we won't worry about it. Okay, now my next row of stuff just has dots going down to the following row. It is the part where I've got some jewels or pearls and diamonds embedded in this. But these are just dotted straight down. So I'll go ahead and just make a line so that my dots know where they're traveling. And I won't draw those pearls just yet, I don't think. I might. I'll decide in a second. So they are straight down from the middle of these diamonds right here, because this is a stroke. Okay, so I'm just going to go straight and see, is it straight on everyone? Yeah, it's straight on the ends of these points. So just use my lathe straight on down. And you want to drop it straight, so you want to be looking at it straight so that you can tell how the arch of the ornament is going to get in your way. Otherwise, people tend to pinwheel, and when you pinwheel something, what that means is, people do this with daisies all the time. Here's the center of my daisy. And then they do a stroke. So far, so good, right? And then they do a stroke. And then they do a stroke. And then they do a stroke. Then pretty soon, everybody goes in a circle, and it's a big pinwheel. And you can do the same thing with lace ornaments, and you don't want to. This is one of those things, you can have a lace ornament in your lap by your TV, and you can simply just sit there and sketch these things all night long, and then the next day at your painting table, you've got them all sketched out. So easy, it's lap work. It is so easy to do. Okay, now I do want to, I had a little bit of a problem. I did this straight where I am going to have the cross hatching on the wide part so that I wasn't on this tight going around the arch part, because when you do cross hatching and you got it going on, it's real easy to suddenly start getting wonky. So I wanted it on the flattest part of the bulb that I could. Okay, so I just wanted to test that. See how far apart. I'm not going to do the whole bulb. I'm going to see what kind of walking pattern I'm going to get, and I think it's going to be okay there. So that works. Okay, beyond that, see, do those line up? They line up with the middles of the, see, the middles of the arches. Okay, so these arches, and I think they're going to skip one, yeah. So I'm looking at my map. I do the same thing I'm telling you guys to do. I'm just reading the road map. So there's the middle of that one. That's going to come down here, and I'm going to make my line there. These are going to be up here. Okay, so we make those dots there. That's halfway. So that's halfway. And then we're going to make these drop down arches as well. There we go. And what you will want to make sure that you're being careful about doing is don't slide this around in these rubberized gaskety things, because while I don't think it will damage it, it will erase your lead. This lead, what I haven't said about this comes off with water, it comes off with varnish, it comes off with spit, it comes off with a damp cloth, it comes off with a million things. So the lead is super perfect for like this application. But when I get ready to redo this, what I'll do is I'll take this out. I don't have the springy side. Oops, I've gotten it all turned around. Actually, before I do that, I can go ahead and make my marks on this side. Okay, now you always want to be painting on matte ornaments, and the reason for the matte ornaments is because the matte takes the paint and it sticks right to it. If you use varnish on one of these matte ornaments, it actually eats the matte finish off and you'll end up with a clear spot. That is perfect when you want to embellish, but not so perfect if you do the whole thing. Although I guess if you do the whole thing, you just have a shiny ornament. Anyway, so you want to be a little bit careful. This is no more delicate, and the paint is really stuck on there. I've never had anything peel or chip off. When you're on glass ornaments, you would have to switch to a glass paint, and glass paint just doesn't have the flow. So using the straight acrylic paint is just really, really easy. All right, so I'm going to see where I'm at. And this might be one of those spots where I say, okay, maybe it's time to put you in my hand and see where we're at. Just because now I've got to go around the body of the ornament, and it might just be a little bit quicker. So I'm there and I'm there. And what I could do, see how silly I am. I don't like handling these so much. So this, if I can have it be in the lathe, that's right, I've adjusted. If I can have it be in the lathe and I'm not touching it, then I don't have my greasy paw prints all over this. Okay, so now what I can do is I can do these this way. All right, so I'm going to go there, we're going to go there. Okay, and then we'll drop down. Okay, so there we go. Now I can do the middle stuff and I don't have to worry about... Isn't this easy with these dots? This just makes it so cinchy. Okay, dotting all the way around, dotting halfway. Oops. So, like I didn't head towards the right spot at all, but that is what our lovely eraser is for. Okay, and dot. Alright, I think you're getting the idea. Now I'm just plain boring you to tears. Now, if I decide to go the opposite direction and finish this thing off, what I could do is have another band of the lattice down here. Don't know if I want to do that yet, so I think I'm going to paint the top and I'm going to see how it feels, and then I'll decide if I want to finish the bottom. Okay, as I'm getting ready to do, like, okay, what color am I going to paint this? White on ornaments is almost never a bad choice. Okay, so that's your first thing to know. Just white is your fail-safe. But, you know, we've got these new glitters in, and they come in these great rainbows of colors. And in this case, with this sage bulb, this goldy green color, or this more green kind of, I don't know what you'd, a little bit more towards a moss color. Either one of these two kinds would be real pretty to do like a tone-on-tone feel for this. Now I'm also toying around with doing like a cream or an ivory, and going in that direction. And I'm just kind of, because I want to have these jewels in here, I'm not quite sure which direction maybe to go. I really feel like maybe I wanted pearls. So maybe green isn't the right choice for me, but you could certainly go that way. And I will tell you, one time I had a red ornament like this one, and I was doing a present for my son's girlfriend, and I decided to do black on the red, which was very striking, but when I was finished it looked like a little, you know what, house in Texas, and it was not very suiting for me to give to my son's girlfriend. So sometimes the colors end up looking real wrong. It looked like a dress from like the cowboy days, you know, with the black and the fringe and the beading and stuff like that. So it was definitely something that I wouldn't choose again unless I had a real reason for doing it. So you do want to be careful with that, with your coloring. And try, you know, always order more ornaments than you think you're going to need, and then do tests. Okay, I'll put it back. You could even mark these if you get into an ornament size that you feel like, you know, you're always painting that size and you're going back and forth in between two things. You could mark these and mark like a line on the lathe itself to show where the handle should be. You can also use your measuring tool. Okay, so you wrap that around there and get a Sharpie out and then mark every 1/4 inch around the base of this. And then you have like pre-measured, you could do a 1/2 inch and you could make marks and things like that out here. And those are really handy tools. Things that you're going to want to have on hand are Q-tips. Okay, these are super sharp. I think you can already tell how they would be handy on a lace ornament. You can get right on in there and clean things off. When you are talking about paint on a lace ornament, you have about 10.5 microseconds to get it off of there before it sticks, and it won't come back off. It's just terrible. Don't fear. There's always like glitter. Okay, so glitter covers up a myriad of things, and when you get all done and you have a big, bad, ugly spot, you either plop a rose if you know how to paint a rose, or you put some glitter there. So you incorporate it into your design. My favorite brush to paint on ornaments like this is the Raphael brush. It looks like an ugly brush, but it holds so much paint and it comes to a micro fine point. You don't want to be going back and forth into every stroke. And this, because of the water that it carries in this little belly, is like the perfect brush. It's the perfect liner brush. It's a nice length. I can balance on top. One of the things that the lathe gives you as well is it gives you a balancing place. So I can do what I need to do and be sitting on here instead of sitting on here. This is a much more cramped position. I can get a lot more elegance when I'm resting on this over here. You can also, someplace I have, you can also use, let's see if I can find another way of doing this. Nope, it's not going to stand still. This is what makes our lathe the deluxe lathe. It has a non-stick rubberized base, and what's neat about that is you can plunk it in between and you can put a bunch of small projects on here and they won't slide off, and you can do your detail work at the right angle. But if you find yourself, I'm looking around for something, use cork sealer. If you find something that's the right height, then you can give yourself, because you're not holding it in your hand, then you could take and you could then do your strokes, okay? And you could be plunked over here instead of, once again, on top of your ornament. So these are all the improvements that I've discovered since I found the lathe and had an extra pair of hands to help me. When you are waking up your Raphael brush, you really want to get it wet. Let it just kind of sit with some water in it just for a minute or two, and then come back to it and then re-wet it and then start using it. It's a natural fiber, and water attracts water, like water molecules attract water molecules. So that if you put the two water molecules together, then the paint in the water and the paint in the water in the brush, everything will flow better because it's connected, if you will. All right, so I think I am going to go on the cream colored for this ornament, which if I can find my color book, I will tell you what color I'll be using. Okay, I'm using bleach sand, and that's going to be for kind of a pearly tone-on-tone look. As I'm putting my paints out, let's get you to the top. So I'm putting the paint out, I want to make sure it's fully shaken. Okay, and I want to put my puddle of paint out. Then I want to pick up water with my brush, and I'm going to mix a puddle out here. Okay, and I'm going to mix it with my brush. You know, you hear all these things about don't let any paint touch your ferrule. With a liner brush, your paint has to be up to that ferrule. The brush will not work right if it's not that way. We want it creamy enough, not too watery. If it's too watery, it'll just bead up on your surface. Okay, so we'll go over a little bit of how to use your brush. I always start with a dry ferrule, so I'll dry that out. I'm going to go over here and just pull it all the way through my brush. So I'm flattening my brush, but I'm not doing it from the middle because then I'd be pulling out a puddle. I want a puddle. So I'm going to start at the edge. It's almost like being nervous about what temperature the water is, and you stick your toe in just a little bit. Work it into your brush. Make sure you're forming a point. Okay. And then when you're ready to go, you're going to balance it. You're going to anchor your hand. You can't free floating do anything. Okay, just get rid of that notion right there. Anchor your hand, and then, you know, practice your line work, practice your pressure. This brush will go so really fine to thicker, to thicker, to thicker. Okay, it will do a lot of things for you. So you've got to practice it so that you know how to operate it. And it's just pressure. I don't know if you could see what I was doing, but I was just pushing harder. All right, so as we come over here, get our glasses, right? Gotta have glasses. Now, this is the part where it may be trickier for me to show you because I've got to be facing the ornament in order to make a stroke. Okay, and I think I do like this cork sealer under here for my hand. Just gives me a nice anchoring place. Okay, I'm above it so I can drop down on it. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to just line my structure lines. Okay, so these guys right here, and you don't want to line the ones that get dotted, so make sure you look at your decorated map. Breathe out as you go, okay, and you just want, so like these ones are going to be the dot ones, so you don't want to do those. You might even dot those when you're tracing the line. Okay, so you're just going to go through and line all of those. I just kind of have to share how fun this is. I'm rotating this around, and I can move my bridge, if you will. Just really easy to make a really steady stroke. Okay, I'm really liking this. You know, and you guys, I don't know if you're chuckling at me, like I'm all like, oh, in discovery mode, but I really am. Because what I've done is I've done one set of initial ornaments where I really didn't do a lot of lacing. And then this is it. This is me taking this out and saying, okay, like I saw that it could hold like finials and wine glasses and terracotta pots, but I didn't know how fantastic it would be till I shot this video, right? So now you guys get to listen to me figuring this out, and so I hope you're enjoying laughing because it's kind of funny. Anyway, but very easy to do. This cork sealer seems to be like the perfect height. You can find, you know, smooth blocks of wood or whatever like that. As you come around, just rotate things around. And then you can rotate this. What I love about this is I've just got a little steering wheel here. Okay. Not having to hang on to it. Oh, steadiness. Oh, steadiness. This is great. All right. Okay. There's my wonky line. Let's see if I can't straighten that puppy out. I actually paint straighter than I draw, and I find that hysterically funny because you'd think that it would be the opposite. Okay, so these other arched lines that are right here, they get lined as well, but they might get stroke work later on. The thing about them is to consistently make them about the same height. Pull towards yourself. Do not push a liner brush. Always pull a liner brush. Okay, always, always, always. There is no time that you want to break that rule, I don't believe. Like I'm sure there is now that I've said that. Okay, so I'm pulling it towards me. So I change the angle that I'm doing it so that I'm pulling it towards me. Changing the angle of my neck. Pulling towards me. Aim from dot to dot. There's nothing more. Did you notice how far around that I went? I've got gobs and gobs of paint still in my brush. Okay, now the lines that are coming down from there, I'm going to thin my paint out just a little bit more. Okay, you know, I'm not going to decorate yet. I would tell you not to decorate yet, so I shouldn't decorate yet either. I get all antsy. I want to make it look pretty. Like, this is the ugly duckling stage, right? So, you know, it's never going to look pretty when you're doing it right here. Now, this is something that I haven't tried before, but you could, in essence, put this back into the lathe when it's dry, and you could move the lathe while locking your liner brush hand. And since I'm talking all kinds of smack here, let me go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and dry this, and I'll reposition it in the lathe and get that going. Okay, and back in my lathe, I'm going to load up my paintbrush. Now, in this case, I'm going to start with a thin line. I might want it thicker later. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to want just yet. Alright, so I've got to lock it on here. And then I don't know, maybe I need to do it this way. Okay, and I have to keep everything stable. So if you go from point to point and you don't try to go all the way around, I can see there being issues if you go all the way around. Alright, remember you don't have a lot of time to get your paint off. I would say do this if you feel more confident. This seems like it's just a little bit more fraught with peril. It's actually vibrating as I'm going around because I'm not doing it real smooth because I'm timid. But, you know, it's not really impacting. So if I wanted to do it without turning it, I would just go from line to line. When you want to go from line to line, what you do is you sneak up in the middle of the line you've already drawn and start in there. That way, when you put the brush down, it's not so obvious where you put the brush down. Okay, so. You know, it works. It's not a bad thing. I think with confidence, I think that would be kind of slamming. All right. So, look over here and see what I'm doing. Okay. I've got dots closing this, but I think I'm going to need to have. At one point I had a double line there, but I don't think I like that heaviness. So I'm going to go ahead and line this as well. Okay, now this one isn't really a line. It was just a line to show me where my level goes. You know, I can decide where to quit turning, and I can just go from line to line. This is an even pressure thing. I can make it even. Okay. Pretty slick. Now, I do think I'm going to go ahead while I've got it in this position, I'm going to cross hatch. Trying to decide if this is a good angle for cross hatching or not. Maybe straight on is better. I don't want to keep going back and forth, so maybe we'll go ahead and line. Okay, this is where I get out my other secret weapon. Because I come in and I'm having an angle problem. If I bring out my artist buddy, which is adjustable. Okay, and I lock it with my little wheelie thingy here. It's non-skid. Okay, and I bring this so that I have an angle that I can get at. Okay, then I can sit like this, and I can use a combination of supports here and here. And you never want to go over something you've just painted, so I need to go the other direction. Okay, and maybe I'll do all of that side. Being really careful about not running my hand through it. Remember the thing about glitter. When you start running your fingers through things, glitter makes the world a happier place with ornaments. I had a woman in class, and if you're one of her, if you're her, sorry, but she got somehow paint all over the base of this, and we ended up sponging the lower half of this, and it was stunning. So sponging, glitter, all of those kinds of techniques, remember those and just mask it. Pretend like it's makeup. You want to keep your lines gracefully arched. They don't have to stop and start right on the dime, because if they stop and start right on the dime, then what's going to happen is you're going to feel stiff. So you just gracefully, and so see, that line didn't line up with my other one. Not going to worry about it. I'm going to fix it with my eraser. Okay. But this gives me the right angle to support the ornament and gets it up in my face, if that makes any sense. Painting flat, looking down on a thing that's perfectly, like trying to do from this angle above, really difficult. So getting an angle on it, brilliant. Okay, got those. We're gonna wait on this part. I think it's time for me to start decorating. Okay, so these get lines. These ones right here get lines. So I'll go ahead and start with those since I don't have to hold it. So now, like I'm doing, I know I keep going on and on, sorry. But now what happens with this is I don't have to have my hand around this part of my ornament and be in the paint. Like the paint is on it, but my hand isn't on it. So that's wonderful. All right, so these get graceful lines. Now this is where I want to thin up my line, less pressure. It's not structure anymore, it's decor. Okay, so I'm going to just use the tip of my brush. A little more over here. Okay, looks how pretty that looks. Okay, and then let's see, just keep going that way. Now I do want to let my paint dry, and I do need to erase these lines. Once paint covers a line, then you end up with a stuck line. So I do want to get my lines erased. So I'm going to hightail out of here. I'm going to finish the rest of these. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing in these ones right here, and then I'll come back then. All right, now I am going to go ahead. We've got such hot weather. It's always funny to me we're painting Christmas ornaments on the hottest day of the year. But if you don't get them done now, you won't get them done. All right, I'm going to start on my cross hatching, and I'm going to see how I do with what angle. So I'll do a little discovery. What you want to do is you want to keep them even, and yet you want to keep them, you're going to keep them even, but you want to make sure they don't start leaning and doing that pinwheel thing that we talked about earlier. Okay, so far I'm liking it. So look at how nice those look. Okay, it's just really, really cool, and the difference in this lathe is amazing. Okay, so just going to gently, we want cross hatching to be pretty delicate looking. Okay, we'll take a look at it and see. Now we're gonna have to swap sides when we go the other way. So we'll go upside down and we'll go this way. Did I just totally just do a quarter of a turn and go all the way around? Ha! Okay. So I'm going away from me as I paint this. Okay, now we're going to want to make sure that I keep an angle. So every now and again you'll have an adjustment to make. Because it is wider at the base than it is. Okay, we'll just turn it to take a look. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit flat to me, so I'll start arching it down. If you do it in micro steps, then it's much nicer. like the idea of just turning this handle to get to the next part. Okay, now this is the part that gets a little trickier where you've got to meet the two. So you're going to assess and then correct on your way in. Okay, and then I do just that one. Oops! Ah! Remember that thing about that 2 seconds? Spit. And we'll take it down just a little bit. And that didn't do me much good. But by the time I cross hatch, it'll be okay. Alright. Now we got to go back the other way, which we decided was this way. Now this way, I'm not so certain that I don't have a place to put my hand, see? Over on this side. So now what I may have to do is take this down. I guess I don't need to unlock it to take it down. And then, let's see, can I do it? No, I think I'm going to have to go up higher. It says like 7 adjustments on the Artist Buddy. Okay, so now I'm going to have to do it higher, and then I think I'm going to have to bring this. Let's get me a place to lean. Okay, so now what I've got here is I've got a double stack here. I've got my arm up here, and then I can turn this down here. Then out my paint's been drying while I've been talking, and so now I've got paste. Not such a good thing to paint lacy ornament lines with. Okay, so I'm going to rethin it, and I used up almost my whole puddle of paint. Always dry your ferrule. Makes your liner brush very slippery if you don't. Much nicer. Want to make sure you're dry. Okay. Look at how slick that is. That is just slick, slick, slick. I don't know if you know the difference. I don't know if you've painted lace before, but I'm here to tell you this is about 1,000,000% difference. And I'm laughing at myself on the inside because I totally scoffed about this thing for the last 20 years. Like, they have been advertising this for 20 years. And I was a non-believer. And I thought, how silly. And here I am, like I'm preaching about it, you know. Okay, let's see, how's our angle doing? It's okay. It's not bad. When I get to these lines that are coming into the triangles, it seems like it's doing pretty good. Looking down here, though, I think I'm leaning a little bit. Yeah, I'm leaning quite a bit, so I'm going to try and stand myself back up a little bit. Okay, got to eyeball it and meet in the middle. Alright, there's cross-hatching. How easy. There's an even band. It's cross-hatching. It's in the middle. It's not measured. It's not hard. It was easy. Hallelujah. And past the peanuts, right? Okay, as I am getting ready to, I'm trying to limit how much this is what's neat about this, is this totally changes how I would normally paint an ornament because my hands aren't on it. I could dot this. I could do all kinds of things as long as I was done painting in that area and I was going to lean my hand on here, you see. So I could put all my little dip dots on there and let them be drying while I'm painting my stroke work or something. So be thinking about which areas are going to be wet, and then you can work in those areas. What I want to do now is I want to do some of my strokes down here because I know I'm going to move up here to the top. When you do your stroke work, and actually when I move up to the top I'm going to change the position of my ornaments, so that's probably not a true story and I'll have to dry it. But when I'm going to do lace and do comma strokes and want them to be beautiful comma strokes, I'm going to go get a new brush out. Or I'm going to really wash here's my other brush, here's my new brush. I don't know if you can tell the difference very well, but definitely this is going to be, these last for a long time and I could get this to make good strokes, but I want my new brush out and I'm going to treat it real well, and it's going to be my comma stroking brush. I've been using this as a base and I've got tons of crap in there World's best brush cleaner will take that out. I'm not taking the time to do it. The thing is, you want that good brush to be making strokes with. So now I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. I don't want to switch back and forth between the putting it in here and switching back and switching it back and switching it back and that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make my strokes, although that's not necessarily the most logical thing to do. But fresh paint for dip, dots, and strokes. You always have fresh paint. I'm going to wet my brush, dry it out, dry the ferrule, and then I'm going to load. Here, let's get you in here. I'm going to load into my paint. Oh, I didn't dry my ferrule off all the way. Load into my paint all the way to my ferrule. And you want to dip into there if you want it to have a thicker dot on the end. It depends on what you're going to want and how much you're going to want to play in it. Okay, I'm going to get back up on the easel. Easel really makes things easilier. Haha. How's that for some punny stuff? Alright, and then this gets one single stroke down the middle. I want beautiful strokes. Okay, I'm trying to see if you can see this. Let me drop it down just a little bit. I don't know if I'll be able to do what I need to do then. I might be, okay, yeah, I can do this up here because nothing's wet here, so I can lean on this and then you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to apply pressure and then just finish that off. Apply pressure, finish it off. This is a dream to paint with. A little bit more water in my paint, just a little bit to cream it up. Okay, look at how nice those look. Beautiful, even, wonderful. This is what we want from lace. Okay, make all my strokes. What I'm liking about this is I can really take my time and make them well. And I don't have to, I'm not rushing because I'm afraid that something's going to move. Okay, so rinse your brush. That's why brushes get gunky, is they get that stuff hardened up in the ferrule. Make sure you rinse it out really well. Okay, I'm looking from here and trying to decide where do I go next. Okay, I could do dots. I might just go ahead and do some of my dots. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll make our dots on our, like I said, it's a little bit out of sequence from what I normally would do, but then I'm using a totally different technique to get it done. All right, the dotting tool. You wouldn't think that this is so necessary, but it is brilliant. I actually laughed at this tool as well. I thought it was like one of those wastes of like a couple bucks. This has got dots. Look at how, I mean, this is almost sharp on the end. They're numbered. That's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, so you know which ones are bigger. And because you can hold it here instead of at the end of a paintbrush, it really, really helps in your accuracy. And it comes in a set of 2, and then these make the really big dots that you can make like hearts and things like that. You really do use them. Make sure you use fresh paint when you're dotting. I don't use anything else to do dots anymore. All right, so when I get ready to dot, something to support my arm. Maybe I'm okay here. Okay, I'm just going to dip and dip. And then wipe. You want to keep wiping, like if you have a thick pad of paper towels, every 1 or 2 dots, depending on where you're at, you put them on the cross hatching. Can you see that? Let me do it so you can see it. You dip and then you wipe, because if you don't wipe, then your dots will get progressively bigger and bigger. Okay, they're having way too much fun out there. Okay, and you're just going to do that all the way around, and you can see why you're going to want to keep your hands out of those. And while I've got you here on the camera, let's do this other set of dots as well. And they're going to go from here to there. Now that one, what you're going to do, how big do I want those? I think we'll go into the yellow one, and we'll go into number 1. And I'm going to do graduating dots. Okay, now that doesn't mean they went to college. It just means that they're going to graduate from smaller to bigger. Fresh paint. Got to have fresh paint. So we're going to dot on here. You know what? I'm not going to do this until I make my strokes, because the strokes will get in my way. So let's make strokes first. And I think I can make my strokes going around this way. And they're just going to go in a row. Okay. So, pardon me. Get our stroke work going. Okay, now, I don't like that one. Time to get off of this one and get down on the ground here. Okay, now that I've got my my comma strokes on there, now I could erase my lines, but I'm not going to really I'm not going to dot on my lines. So fresh paint, and now that I can see where things are, I'm going to go straight down in the graduated dot series. Okay, and those just look really, really, really elegant. We always, always, always wipe off our dot tool between graduated dots. Otherwise things get way out of hand. Okay, so go around and apply dots. Okay, I did take it out to get a bird's eye view of where I'm going with the cleanup. Much easier just to rotate it around and around this way. And I'm just going to erase those structure lines that I gave myself. You want to erase gently, don't erase with big pressure. Okay, I've got a little blurble right there. If I do it right, I'll just put some glitter on those strokes and it'll be all better. Okay. Obviously you want to wait till everything is dry. And I'll go ahead and clean up these lines down here. Just do a general cleanup when you've got the opportunity. Especially now that we've got all the structure stuff on. It's looking really pretty and elegant, isn't it? Really like it. Okay, I've got my ornament in the vise. The vise. Dun dun dun. And it's time to do the top details. You know what I like? It's real funny, when I used to do these, I used to set them. We've got this brand new tri-stand. You could put an ornament on each one of these things. I used to recommend that you do 3 at once because you couldn't do more than one and have drying time. Like, you couldn't get your hand around it, so you had to dry it before you could go paint on it some more. And with this new the vise, you can paint one whole ornament straight in a row without needing to shuffle between 3 of them. Now what's bad about that is it really feels like you're getting a ton done if you're doing 3 at one time. But the reality is that you're just waiting for the other to dry, so I guess it's a split, maybe. Okay, so we're going to get our jar of goodies back over here. See where I'm supposed to have lines. Now this is those ones that I wanted to be really elegant again. So I'm not even going to hold on to that. I'm going to get fresh paint thinned with water. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that I've got real good stroke control. Okay, and I'm just going to go through and line all of those. Okay, I just moved my brushes. My brushes were sitting over on the edge of my palette paper, and I rolled my paper towel like off the palette paper, and I realized that I had ruffled the hairs in my nice, beautiful, wonderful brushes. So what this water basin is for, it has these ridges on here. It is to hold those brushes to keep them off of your palette so that they don't roll through your paint and things like that. When you're doing lace, it really is a more precision thing. So please, 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 please use your tools so that you can prevent terrible things happening to beautiful brushes. All right, so now it's time to do these top strokes. Okay. Trying to decide what angle to attack them from. I think I'm going to have to go behind them. I'm going to use less paint than I think I would need because I'm going to do it. I'm going to use a little more pressure, and I've got to have to lift off earlier, otherwise I'm going to run into this wall, which is this centerpiece right here. So, very nice. Like it, like it, like it. So you want to use less paint. That's going to give you more control. And try not to have your elbow roll while you're doing it. Now I'm going to switch back to, let's go flat here. I'm going to switch back to my older flat brush, and we're going to do some varnishing. So what I know is I want to show off some of these places that have just the elegance and stuff. So I think what we're going to do is gloss varnish this cross-hatching area. And what this does is it gives it just enough of a reflection. It almost looks like, I don't know if I can get you in there to see it. Okay, we're right there. It almost looks like we cut a little hole in the ornament. The darker the ornament, the more obvious that effect is. When you see it, you're going to love it. This is really pretty with dots. So just adds another element of shimmer and shine. Gloss varnish is the one, though. You've got to use gloss. Okay, and that just adds something else going on right there. Okay, on the dots coming down here, down the side, let's go to a number 4 and let's do graduating dots. And I just finished up my dots there, so I want to be real careful. You know what, that's not going to be big enough. Okay, so we'll go into our yellow one. And I think we'll go with the number 1. See how that goes. So we'll go right there at the top and then dip, 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 dip. And always wipe it off. The bigger they are, the more you've got to make sure that you wipe it off. I have to raise my Lazy Susan. Okay. Get you on camera a little bit. And then you just alternate sides. Real juicy. Now you want to be careful that they don't run. So if you get too juicy, make sure, just be careful. Okay, now if you have a situation where you've got the big one already done on one side, then dip it once on your palette paper to get rid of the big dot. And then be careful because dots splash. If you go too quickly, they spatter. I just got one little spatter down here. But they spatter, so you want to go a little bit slow and gentle. Isn't this better than juggling with big juicy dots? And that cleans up those lines. If you have any hiccupy lines, one dot on my palette so I can Okay, so now I'm trying to decide where I want to go next. On my pattern I kind of end, so I've decided that I'm going to make another side to this. I just decided, since it's so easy to draw this line, okay, and that is about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go over here, and we're going to give ourselves a little line. All right, now these are blown ornaments or whatever, and so they can be a little bit wonky as far as like not being quite straight. You're going to have to let go of that part, okay? So I'm going to get on there, get locked on, gently marking. And this dotty staccato thing is okay because just don't want to press too hard. Totally move my hand. Okay, this is where I ended up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it on there. Split the difference here. And then I'll erase that line. Splitting the difference is a really good compromise point. Okay. Now what I want to do after that is I want to take these, I'll get you so you can see. I'm going to go straight down from here, and I want to take these lines that are here, and I want to just bring those down. So I'll sketch those down. Okay, and I'll do all those. Okay, so we're going to make our lines coming the other way. My brush is just freshly woken up, so I want to make sure that, all right, now I can lean my hand up on here. Oops. Get my mark back in there. Okay, and so we'll just line all of those. And then we're also going to go ahead, well, we've done this already, so I can't see showing it again. We're going to make this line here. So once I make this line, okay, then we'll go ahead and make a repeat of those lines over there. Okay, now this is coming from, it's important to remember which way you pulled things. So this was coming from this direction. Okay, and so we'll fill all of those in with that as well. As I'm doing these, it is much easier for me to do one side, pulling all from the same side. Goes quick and easy and flows, and then I'll flip this over and I'll do the other side. So as I come up with any kind of brainstorm, I'm trying to make sure I share it with you so I'm not keeping secrets. Okay, so I found a fantastic little discovery while I was doing my lower lines here. If you take this and put it in your lap, you can get a really good high angle, and it's a real comfortable place to paint from because this props up the ornament so high for you. So that was kind of cool. And then the other thing I discovered, we carry this thing, let's see, where are they? Right here. We carry this stuff called glass stain. I don't know if you can get how shiny that is. And there is a glass stain that is clear, and it looks just like we have got diamonds posted right on top of that. So I've done some drip drops in the clear, and so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to do the same as I would for any dots. Dip it in there. I'm dotting once off because I think it's too heavy, but I don't want to use a smaller dip dotter. And then straight on down, same exact way. Okay, and they just look beautiful. So I'm going to do those, and then I'm also going to do my dots that are on here. These dots here, what did I use? I wonder if I used, maybe I'll use a 3. And so we'll start there. Nope, not a 3. We will try the 4. Okay, so dot, dot, little graduated dots just like before. Okay, and so that'll take you a little bit of time there. Well, it's getting awfully pretty and awfully wonderful. Loving it. Okay, now with my ornament still locked in there, I'm going to do the same size line there. Splitting my difference again. If you don't want to make a line that you have to erase, if you're not a fan of the erasing, then you can simply do little dots as well. So the dots would be a good solution. So we're going to repeat what we did up here, which was the cross hatching, and we did the other line. So we'll paint the line, do the cross hatching, do the dots, and it's just a repeat. And then we'll see what happens when we get down here. Okay, this is where we're at. My ornament is dry. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that I'm done. And the reason I'm thinking that I'm done is I can't see me doing a whole lot with the space, but this would give me an excellent place to personalize. So one of my favorite ways to sign an ornament is to use the gloss, or in this case the glass stain, and your liner brush. And it's just an absolutely beautiful thing to do. So you would just sign, say, your name. You could do it around and you put the year. Always put the year on these things. So, but I'm just going to sign. Okay. And then put the year. And it just, I don't know if you can see it on there, but it's just a real subtle look. 2010, I think my very first one of these was in 2000 or in 1999, so I think it's kind of cool. It's been 10 years. Been lacing it up for 10 years. Anyway, so I hope that you've learned a whole lot with this DVD. I think that these are just an absolute blast to do. Experiment with where you can put the gloss. You can gloss out. And I wanted to show you on these other ornaments, you can actually do, and it looks so, so cool. You can do, I've done this on a magenta ornament before. You can take the same pattern that you have and you do everything in gloss. And it looks absolutely amazing. So everything that I did with paint, do it with gloss. And when you get it done, it's a subtle, but the shine really makes it have a different effect. It is really, really, really fantastic. So I encourage you to try that kind of thing too. Oh, we've got to cover doing the glitter. Let's go ahead and glitter on here. I've got these fantastic little trays called, like cleanup trays or something like that. I don't know what they're called. We're going to use, in this case, I'm going to use the Glamour Dust because it's just going to go with this ornament. I'm going to use my liner brush, and I could use either varnish or the clear glass stain. I think I'll just use clear glass stain. Okay, and so we'll get our round. Start methodically. Get your glitter open. Okay, so I'm going to go right over the top, and I would do 2 or 3 of them, and then it just sticks right on there. So you've got, now remember the gloss is going to eat off the finish, but then the glitter will stick to it. I think this ornament probably would be just as pretty without glitter on it. You know, so I think that that's certainly an option. There's an elegance to the green and the cream colors. You can use anything to stick the glitter to the ornament. What I love about these trays is it keeps this all contained in here. The other day one of the girls walked in here and ended up with glitter all over everything because the glitter travels. When you get done, you're going to use a soft mop brush to clean up, and then wash it out with soap and water. And so you can do your glitter anywhere where there are mistakes, anywhere where you want just a little bit of extra zing. Okay. And that is how you do that part.